Hey, you guys. Good morning. Thank you for stopping by. Thanks for taking the time to click on the video. This one is going to be a little different. I'm going to be explaining to you why for the last couple weeks or so, I haven't been able to do the same content, keep up with kind of the same content that I was doing. But I'm getting back to that. And I feel that it is important to make a couple of videos on this particular topic, okay? I caught pneumonia at the beginning of November, and it's been kind of a complex situation. I've learned a lot, and I feel it's important to share my experience because of what's going on in the world and what's been going on in the world since 2020. Now, as far as this having anything to do with COVID, I don't think so. But there's a possibility, since I have had COVID before, that it did contribute to weakening my lungs when I finally caught pneumonia years later. So we'll get there. So anyway, I just wanted to introduce the video, tell you guys what we're going to get into briefly. I'll probably do two parts of this. I want to try to make it as concise as possible and pass experience and information along and awareness that other people might not know, might not be aware of, might not occur to them, or it might help you guys in some way, okay? I just walked my dog this morning, and I'm very grateful that I was able to do that, okay? The experience I had was earth-shattering to me. It was like a near-death experience. It was so frightening, and I don't know, if I had to go through that, if there were shortcuts, I could have done something differently where I didn't have to suffer that mental and emotional and physical fear and everything that I had to go through this month. There might have been another way, but whatever the case, the powers that be, my decisions, whatever chose to take me through this 10, 12 days, I just had to sit like that in terror and not knowing what the hell. All right. So again, I appreciate you guys being here. I'm still working on my channel, my content. I do a lot of different topics. Most of the time I try to keep it to psychological, people overcoming childhood issues in their adulthood and middle age, relationships and relational dynamics, psychological stuff, emotional stuff, and spiritual stuff, philosophical stuff, food, love of life. No matter what I do cover, writers that I love, people that inspire me, no matter what I do cover on the channel or make videos about, it's generally going to come out with something we can all take away from it and learn from and be inspired, okay? But this is different. So I'm going to put this out for you guys, and hopefully, because you know what? And I will get back to the other content for you. I want you guys to know I'm working on it, okay? I hate it. I've been working on this channel 3 years, and every time I seem to get some momentum, I get knocked back with something. It's crazy. I'm just telling y'all the truth. It's what happens. And, I was so proud. I got monetized. I got some momentum going. And, it is what it is, but I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep on, going forward with it. And I will get back to the content that, a lot of my viewers are here to watch or looking for, okay? But let's get on to this pneumonia stuff. Let's get on to this scary breathing, oh my God, experience that I had this month. And I'm going to tell you something. I am so thankful for YouTubers who are just average, everyday people who shared their experiences of pneumonia, of COVID, of being sick, of what they did to get through this stuff. Also professionals, respiratory therapists, doctors, that literally you can go on YouTube now and get yourself through certain things because they put all this training on there. They take the time to make these videos, to walk you through it. And, that was a big help to me because it's a terrifying thing to walk through. Sometimes you just have to be patient and get through it. You're confused. You don't know. Sometimes the doctors don't know. And I found it very comforting to find other people on YouTube who had either had pneumonia or COVID or some kind of breathing difficulty, and they had all of these, experiences and techniques and things that they used. And I also not only listen to that, but it's also smart to be careful, be discerning, and find the professionals too, who are accredited respiratory therapists and doctors that know, that they have a specialty and expertise, know what they're talking about, okay? And mix all that together and use your own judgment to get through things. I really appreciated finding that. So here we go. I'll make part 1 about what happened to me. Try to get you guys through it, make it, at least boring as possible, tell you what happened, how it set in on me, and then I'll clip that. And then for part 2, I'll tell you guys, the aftermath, what the new medications are, what my plan is going forward. So, around the first week of November, little backstory, here's me. And I know some people are going to come for me about this. I was a 30-year smoker. That doesn't help shit. It is to be expected. If you smoke, or if you smoked in your past, that as you get into your older age, and I hate to say that because I'm only 47, I want to believe, you are what you believe you are, but I am approaching 50. And I'm saying, I know, duh, if you smoked a long number of years, there is a chance that you will have weaker lungs than other people, that you may have some problems in your 50s and 60s. If you catch pneumonia, if you catch RSV, if you catch a cold, yada, yada. Of course, the smoking and or vaping in those years weakens lungs. I understand that. So I didn't, I had that going on. I was a 30-year smoker, and I had quit smoking 2 years ago and started vaping. Okay, now that's a whole other thing. I don't recommend either one. I never have. Now, I will talk to you guys about why for a while I was making videos about vaping and the flavors and all this stuff. And that was me documenting my journey from smoking to vaping, because I had been a 30-year smoker, and it was insane that I didn't smoke anymore. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I was able to stop. I never dreamed that I would be able to stop smoking. So that's why I was doing that. I don't condone either one, and I never did. It's not something I condone. I was just doing reviews for the people who did vape, for people who had been lifelong smokers, who had no intention on quitting, or, who had no intention on leaving nicotine alone totally and wanted to go to vaping or whatever. I was doing it for legal, of age, older, lifelong smokers who wanted the information, but I was not condoning it. And I was encouraging everyone to please do your damn research, because we don't have enough research on vaping. We really don't, to be putting that shit in our lungs. Okay. And it's doing it at our own risk. And people are right. We don't need to encourage children. We don't need to encourage it. But I will say it has its damn benefits above smoking. And a doctor will tell you that too. They will also tell you that it's messing people's lungs up badly, making it to where they need lung transplants or not making it. Okay. And I got this straight from the horse's mouth when I was hospitalized this past week. So we'll get into all the smoking, vaping stuff later. So my history is, yes, I was a 30-year smoker. I started smoking at 12 years old. Around age 45, I wanted to stop. Everybody I knew was vaping at the time. My grown sons, my friends, yada, yada, yada. So I started gradually going over to the vaping. And I started feeling better. Also in my background, a light asthmatic. My father was heavily asthmatic. He lived on albuterol. I was diagnosed with light asthma as a child, but I outgrew it. I never had attacks unless every 5 or 6, 8 years, literally, a seasonal trigger would come up. Then I would have an attack. Sometimes I'd have to get a breathing treatment or call an ambulance or make sure I have a rescue inhaler around. That's the extent of it. I really almost forgot that I had asthma as I grew into my life. So that's kind of my background. Probably had no business smoking, but I did. Type A, anxiety disordered, chain smoker. Yeah. Strong menthol cigarettes. You know, that's the way it was. I'm not proud of that. It probably did weaken my lungs, okay, to a degree. So that's kind of my backstory of, what was going on. And I had been vaping for about 2 years. And I'm going to tell y'all the honest truth, okay? I got really depressed a year ago. I was going through a major breakup after a 7-year relationship. My partner was terminal. I knew that things were coming to an end and things went really bad with us. And I ended up back with my mother. I ended up losing my place, my transportation, my everything, and having a mental breakdown, a grief. I became depressed and just broken, okay, because of the way things were happening. And I knew it wasn't going to be long that I was going to lose that person and everything was going to change. And, so I came to live with my mother, and unfortunately, I got very depressed and very lethargic. Here's a mistake. We have every right, you guys, to get depressed. We have every right to want to lay around. We have every right to want to take a break in life. We have every right to say, I just can't go any farther. I've got to lay here a while. I've got to just be. But I'm going to tell you what can happen to you if you do it too long. If you sit stagnant, you don't have to be a drug addict. You don't have to be a obviously self-destructive person to be self-destructive, to be self-neglecting. And that's what was beginning to happen to me. I was sitting in this room and just kind of stagnating. I would work on my videos a little bit. I had some job applications out, but I was really broken, really not ready to face the world yet. And there would be days and days of depression where I just wouldn't move around very much, either sleeping a lot or sitting around watching my television, or, we people who are creative on these phones and computers, and we do a lot of our work online, we have to watch it. People who sit for a living, who work behind a computer, who work at a desk, we have to watch it because we need to be up moving around, because there are certain times of year that our lungs sit there and stagnate, okay? We think we're moving around enough, but we're not. Especially if you're a smoker. I can't say this enough. If you are a smoker or a vapor, we've got to get into talking about what I've learned about vaping. Even though, hey, I did it hot and heavy for 2 to 3 years, this vaping thing, I was not condoning it as a healthy thing, though. I have learned what it's actually doing to our lungs, and they don't have as much research on vaping as they do tobacco. 100 years or so of research on tobacco, they know what the fuck it does. There are some differences, though, okay? There are some pros and cons to each one, and you need to know, because when I experienced this pneumonia, it was a whole different ball game for me being a vapor, trying to cough that shit up. I'm just going to tell the honest truth so everybody can know about it. All right, so back to the beginning of November, and I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry if I can't tell this story as concisely as I'm sure there'll be some trolls or people that get angry with me because I can't get it out fast enough or whatever. I'm just trying to make sure that, in telling the information of what happened, people get the backstory, they get all the information, okay? And so, yeah, back to the beginning of November, that was kind of my backstory. I had switched over to vaping, and I was proud for me, not for anybody else, and not saying it was healthy, but I was proud not to be a stinky ass, smoking, smelling, wheezing smoker anymore. I was amazed. The wheezing that I had known all of my life as a smoker, naturally, because I was lightly asthmatic, that was gone. I could breathe better. I could hold notes to sing. I love to sing. I didn't stink. And I thought I was doing better, And had I not abused that vape, I probably would have been all right. Not saying it would have been healthy. Not saying it might not have caught up to me later on, even the light vaping. Not saying that. You do it at your own damn risk, because it is changing the structure of your lungs. We'll get into that later. But had I not abused the hell out of that vape, things might have gone differently for me. Had I not gotten depressed, come to sit in a room at my mother's for an entire year, hardly any exercise, going through a depression, a breakup. My partner actually did end up passing away this past September, grief-stricken, paralyzed, numb, just lost, y'all. And yes, sitting in this room, chain vaping. Being that nervous personality who wants my cup of coffee and my damn cigarette, and whatever I'm doing in this life is going to be there with me. and the vape had replaced the cigarette. It's easier to get away with. It doesn't stink. Nobody knows it. And in a way, it's bad. We need to be aware of this because we can do it so much more. And what's weird is, yes, I thought about it quite often. Tam, what are you doing? You got this damn vape in your hand 24 hours a day. This can't be good. You just puffed on it 5 seconds ago. You just puffed on it 5 seconds ago. You know, and that is just how it would be. I would sleep with it near me. It's like, and honestly, most everybody I know that's vaping, it's a joke. They do that. Yeah, I sleep with that damn thing. Okay, I do believe that the vape is so much more addictive than the nicotine in the cigarettes. I don't know what's going on there, but I know this. It didn't take me long after getting on, and all I do is disposable vapes, y'all. I don't do all these I need all this clouds and rigs and $150, $200 rigs, and I need I don't do that. I am careful where I bought my vapes. There are some fake vapes going around with the word acetate. You need to look it up. You need to research it. I meant to do a video on that too a long time ago. Vitamin E acetate or some shit like that. I know it starts with an A. Fake ingredients, bad ingredients, and that's what was killing people. It was giving them popcorn lung instantly. It was putting them into lung transplant. Kids getting online wanting to get the cheapest product imaginable, and if you run across that ingredient, okay. So I was careful about where I bought my vapes, what store I frequented, reading the ingredients, being careful about that, okay? Even though I'm not saying it's good in any case. There are some that can fuck you up immediately. All right. So, I was always careful about where I bought them, and I was careful to, read out the ingredients. But the problem is I abused the damn thing. It doesn't matter. If you abuse something like that, yes, I sat in this room and I just remember thinking, you've got to stop this, but depression and grief can kill you. It can sit on you like a big heavy weight. And even though so you might not look self-destructive to the rest of the world. You might not be drinking. You might not be doing drugs. You might be getting up and getting dressed and talking to your friends, making videos, seeming kind of normal, but not, and still broken inside. And a lot of this year I was going to therapy. I was reaching out. I was doing what I could, but I still just wasn't taking care of myself the way I needed to be taken care of. I just was not up on that morning routine, taking care of the body, getting the exercise I needed, getting on back out into the life. I don't have my car. I lost a lot. And so, yes, pneumonia was able to set up in my lungs because, like I said, I was sitting here, not pushing myself. I know it sucks when you're depressed. I know you deserve some time off, y'all, but I'm just saying, I wasn't pushing myself like I needed to be pushed, this body and my exercise, and sitting there fucking chain vaping, no matter what I was doing, days and days at a time. And that, yeah, I knew somewhere in the back of my mind, this is going to fuck you up. You've got to stop that. You can't keep going on like that. That cannot be good for you to just, and a lot of people think that in order not to go back to smoking, that's what we do. I gotta have two of them. I gotta have this vape in my hand at all times. In mine, like I say, it was just a little $20 disposable vape, little Elf bar, little Escobar. I thought I was getting a good deal, $20 a week versus $75 or $100 with cigarettes at 2 packs a day back then. I was saving money. I was careful to read the ingredients. I thought I was doing a lot better. And I was until I abused it. Again, I'm going to say, I was until I abused it. That was just my personal experience. But I fucking abused it. I sat there and I'm like, you got to get out of here. You need to be at a job moving around all day. You wouldn't be sitting here hitting this vape like this if you were at a job. You got, and I was applying for jobs. I was trying to make things happen as soon as I could. But I'm just telling y'all how far down I went. Sitting in an isolated place, in your home, in your life, be careful that you have a support system if you need to take a break from life. if you get depressed, if you have a tragedy in your life you need to process, a breakup, a divorce, a job change, whatever the fuck, please make sure that you have a good support system, because you might think you're looking out for yourself, but it catches up to you, especially when you're getting close to 50. I can't stress the importance, guys, of going from 40 to 50. To me, it's like this danger zone. I mean, it just is, that people need to prepare for. I lost my older brother. I watched him go down this way. Drugs, alcohol, self-neglect. I've watched several other people go down that way. For some people, it's really hard to make it across that threshold, okay? It sneaks up on us. All the things that we can handle at 25 and 35 and whatever, it just doesn't occur to us that we can't just sit here and do this and do this and do this and do this, and our body is going to recover from it like it did. It's not. And some people don't get so lucky to come out of it. You know, it catches them and it's too late. They're too old. They've done too much. And so, backstory on who I was, what I was doing, and what was happening. Now, early November hits. I've been sitting in this room, you know, going and coming a little bit, but really not at full power, and really just chain vaping, grabbing my vape whenever I want to, not getting enough exercise. Shit, you shouldn't be. I mean, I knew that was ridiculous. You shouldn't be hitting that vape more than a few times a day, if any, just enough to get you a little nicotine until you can get onto a smoking cessation program or whatever. But I screwed up. I'm just telling y'all. Now, was this the absolute cause of getting pneumonia? No, they don't know that, and they didn't say that. Was there any one cause to what happened to me? No. They think it was a combination of things, and most likely it was viral or something I caught from someone else or out in the air. So here we go. First part of November, I start noticing that I'm talking on videos and kind of like I'm doing now, but not nearly as bad. Now I'm a lot better. I'm on the recovering end. But the first part of November, I started to notice I was getting winded while trying to talk to people on video and trying to get through conversations. And I thought, damn, okay. And I noticed I woke up a couple mornings a little bit different, feeling my chest just feeling a little bit different. You know your body. And so I told my primary care, I said, I think this might be one of those years where something has triggered up and I may need a new asthma inhaler. Can I go ahead and get you to prescribe me a backup albuterol inhaler? Because I'm feeling a little winded and I think that'll take care of it. No big deal. It always does. Okay, but I did not consider that now, by this point, I had been a 2-year vapor. Not just a smoker anymore of what I was used to, a 2-year vapor. And so my doctor prescribed for me a brand new albuterol, blah, blah, blah. And it didn't help anything. That was horrifying. 2 puffs, 4 puffs. Whatever this was, increasingly started getting worse on me that week. I had a job interview to go to. I went to the job interview. I tried to push through things and ignore, like, okay, this isn't that big of a deal. This isn't really happening. It's just I'm a little bit winded. I'm slightly asthmatic. It's been about 5, 6, 7 years since I've had an asthma attack. But hey, it'll pass. It didn't. This shit, whatever it was, got into my lungs like a monster. Okay? And it sat on my chest like a fucking elephant. And it got worse and worse and worse. And like I say, the first few days to week that this was incubating and setting in on me, I thought it was just light asthma. I thought it was just minor irritation. In fact, I was still even hitting my vape. I didn't fucking know. I thought it would pass. I didn't know that I had caught anything or didn't even really think about having serious asthma that was catching up with me needing attention. But all of this was in the works. What it was a perfect storm. I caught one thing, which was triggering another thing, which we didn't know for a while, which needed care, and it spiraled from there. And I'm going to get all into that with you, how catching pneumonia triggered a terrible asthmatic reaction that needed care that I did not have a care plan in place for, and how all of this went down, okay? I'm sorry it took me this long to introduce the first part of this topic in this video. I'm sorry if it's not as concise as you guys need and you don't, the title. I hope you find what you need if you're, looking for information like this, and I hope it helps somebody. But, I needed to give you guys a little bit of backstory of how it all got started and who I was before this happened. And I'm going to clip this at the 30-minute mark, so it'll go ahead and upload. So I got about 5 minutes. I'll keep talking, and then we'll get into the rest of it in part 2. And so as it progressed that week and got worse and worse, after my job interview, this had been going on 3 or 4 days. And, I told my mother, I said, okay, my inhaler's not working. I don't know what is happening to me. I went and stopped at a Kroger store to pick up some stuff. I had to stop outside and catch my breath. This had never happened to me before. Even as a long-term smoker, I had never been that short of breath. Never. Okay. And it really was getting scary. And so I sat here a couple more days trying to catch my breath, thinking, okay, any day the albuterol is going to work. This is going to pass on through whatever it is. So finally it got to the point where I'm like, all right, you know what? The emergency room is scary. I'm not going to lie to y'all. Some people are probably asking me, why you didn't just go straight to the emergency room? What's wrong with you? The emergency room is fucking scary these days, y'all. Y'all know it. Sometimes, sometimes you get worse shit in the ER and you don't want to go over there and expose yourself to even worse. And you know damn well it's emergency. You're not supposed to use that for unless it is a dire emergency. And then it's up to us to figure out, is my shit a dire emergency? I would say your lungs, yes. If you're not breathing and you're tripped up and you're concerned, it's an emergency. So I went to the ER. By this point, I was fucking terrified. I called an ambulance that day. I couldn't walk. It had progressed to the point where all I could do was sit up in a chair. I couldn't lay down at night. I couldn't recline very much. If I even turned around to straighten a pillow up, that took too much air. Getting up to walk to the bathroom took too much air. It was horrifying. And I found that trying to breathe in through my mouth made it worse. If you go on YouTube and search, you will find a wealth of information on nose breathing and how important and healthy it is, and how mouth breathing is killing people. I've seen that topic many times, that mouth breathing is really fucking up people's health. So I found that the only way I could breathe for those few days was through the nose, long breaths through the nose and out through the mouth. That was the only way. And to stay hunched over like this. The only way I could make it to the bathroom and back. That's just a few feet. We're in a tiny apartment. That was it. If I stood up straight like this and I tried to pull air into my lungs and walk through the bathroom or walk anywhere, I couldn't breathe. I was terrified. And it was scaring me to death. I wasn't wanting to get out of my chair. I was wanting to hold my urine because I was scared I was going to get out of breath. I was scared by the time I made it to the toilet, I was going to have to sit there an hour just to catch my breath to get back to the bed. Y'all, this was crazy. So yes, I did fucking go. I called an ambulance. And I was scared. That shit is scary. Sometimes we put it off. The sirens and the excitement, and the more my heart would beat fast, the less I could get air. Your heart beats fast, you need more oxygen, that whole shit. And, I remember them coming and putting me on the stretcher. I remember them immediately checking my oxygen saturation. I was scared. For all I knew, they were going to tell me I needed a ventilator. For all I knew, they were going to tell me I was a goner. I didn't know what they were going to tell me. I didn't know what was fucking happening. I didn't know what I could have done that could have been that bad. I don't know, what the hell has hit me. Because I hadn't even been around that many people. Like I say, I had been isolated, really. I had been around a couple people, if that. And so they took me over to the ER, and it's crazy. That day, it was so busy, that Saturday, that even though I went by ambulance, I spent more time out in the waiting room that day. They were so busy with other patients. Okay, this is hitting the 30-minute mark. I may go a couple minutes over and then wrap it up, and we'll get on to part 2. And we'll get into the meat of what happened to me, what I learned, my hospital, the second time I went back to the ER, everything. We hadn't even got into this yet, of what they told me in the ER the first time, how I went 10 days, then how I had to go back and actually be admitted to the hospital, what happened, what I learned, this whole process, okay? We're going to get into it, I promise you guys, okay? But yes, we're up to the first emergency room visit. And a lot of us are reluctant to do the shit. We're reluctant to go over there. We were, for all reasons. But I got there and it was busy as shit. You know, hey, it is what it is. And I spent 6, 8, 9 hours there that day. They kept taking me to the back, working on me, doing stuff, testing, leaving me to sit out front for 2 hours, back and forth all day long. It was crazy. And the whole time I was getting no relief. I was having to walk around like this, barely breathing, okay? The first thing they did when they got me to the ER that first time, this was November 12th, they gave me 2 updrafts. And if you know what those are, you know what they are. It's a mix, I guess, of oxygen, albuterol, steroid, whatever. Didn't do shit. Didn't really help at all. Little bit. Put me back out in the waiting room. Testing all day. They didn't do any blood work that first hospital trip, but they did test for COVID up my nose, RSV. They did a chest x-ray, yada, yada. Long story short, I came back negative, y'all. No COVID, no RSVs, no bronchitis, no whatever the fuck they test for in the nose swabs and everything else. They also told me my lungs look good. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. After a 30-year smoker. Thank you. They said my lungs look good. But sometimes shit can be hiding that we can't see. Little spots and stuff. Enough to where we need to go and treat you for it. They also said from the time I hit that ambulance, my pulse oxygen was good. My oxygen saturation was good. So that in the back of my mind gave me hope. That kept me from panicking about, all right, girl, you're going on a vent. You're gone. You are a goner. You have done something irreversible, or this is just really progressed and severe. My oxygen saturation always stayed at least in the high 90s. I don't think it ever went under 90. And that day they picked me up, it was at 94. So that gave me some hope, but I still was gasping for air. I still wasn't breathing. So I knew, though, that when I was sitting still, that I was getting good and full oxygen. It was just, we had to figure out what the fuck was causing this for when I have to get up and move around. So, like I say, full battery of tests, spent that first trip in the ER. No blood work, but all the other tests came back negative. And what they told me was, we don't know what's going on. They said, this is kind of a gray area. We think it has something to do with an asthmatic reaction. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you a steroid shot in your hip and an antibiotic shot, which they did. And we're going to prescribe you 10 days of doxycycline. We're going to treat you like you have community acquired pneumonia. And it was this gray area where they weren't sure if I did or not. But that's how it is in the ER. They got to save the beds for the people that are desperately needing them the most. And I feel like I really was in that condition at the time, but they didn't feel like it was so progressed that, they still needed to rule out, we think this shot can do her some good and these antibiotics. And they said, ma'am, you should be seeing some relief in 24 to 48 hours. So I took my shot, my updrafts, my doxycycline prescription, and proceeded on to leave the ER to embark on this 10-day fucking journey of fighting pneumonia. I did have pneumonia, and I'm going to tell y'all what all I went through and learned about pneumonia in those 10 days and how I fought it. But at the same time, mine was so much worse, and I couldn't get any better from it at the end of the 10 days because I couldn't breathe because I'm asthmatic. And I was having a severe asthmatic reaction without my asthma care plan and steroids and all that shit in place. And I needed it. And this went on 10 to 12 days before I returned to the ER for a second time, at which time I was admitted. And that was the that was the end of last week. I got out the first part of this week. So I'm going to tell you guys all about what happened in my 10-day journey with the antibiotics, the pneumonia, the asthma, what the hell happened to me, what really did work for the pneumonia. By the time I got back to the ER, they weren't concerned about that pneumonia. That was coming along okay. They were concerned about my asthmatic reaction and if my lungs were, they were so inflamed. If my lungs were going to respond to steroids, if I was going to be able to control this, get back to full lung power. I learned a lot, y'all. I had never been hospitalized before. Thank you, God. Other than having my 2 children, the first 27 years ago, 26 years ago, the second, other than having my 2 children, I've never been hospitalized before. So you talk about terrified, but I needed that care. I needed that round-the-clock medicine, care, relaxation, safety, everything they were doing for me. But it was very hard for me to give up and go. And I think some of you can probably relate to that too. I had a little dog at home. I had responsibilities at home. And so it's very hard for us to put our health first. Okay, guys, the video's gotten long enough. I'm going to clip it here. And I'm going to come back in part 2 in just a little bit. And I'm going to tell you guys exactly what happened when I got back to the hospital 10 days later. First, I'm going to tell you about my 10-day pneumonia battle. And some ways that really helped me get that shit up. Because pneumonia is a whole different ball game, y'all. Pneumonia is not playing around. And I never had pneumonia before in my life, so I didn't have anything to compare it to. But pneumonia as a smoker or a vapor, and the fact that I did have COVID 6 months ago, which was uneventful, thank God. I only had a headache. It went away. Didn't affect my breathing, but COVID can get in and weaken your lungs if you've had it. We know that now too. There's such a thing as long COVID as well. Was I diagnosed with that? No. What I think I had was pneumonia and asthmatic reaction. We're going to get into it though, okay? I got a lot more coming for you guys in part 2. Stay tuned. I'll be back with that in a little bit. Thank you for watching, okay?